And today we have with us Jessica. She works with IVS and she can introduce herself, but she works with IVS with our smart boards with the district. And so she's going to be doing the training today. And I will be here in the chat as well for questions. So let me stop sharing and give it to Jessica. Thank you.
All right, let me go ahead and pin myself for everyone. All right, so I just spotlighted my camera for everyone, so hopefully you can see me in here. If not, I think you can pin it on your end as well. But hello, everyone, I'm Jessica, and like Carrie said, I work for IVS Computer Technology. I lead the training department for IVS, and we work with districts all over the state in implementing smart boards into daily instruction. So I also have one of my colleagues on with me from IVS, Melinda Winter. So she'll be helping out in the chat as well. So if you do ask questions and things, if you get a response from her, just know that she's part of the team as well. All right, so let's go ahead and before I get started, well, first, let me just give you kind of an idea of what we're gonna cover in today's session. And then I'll ask you a quick question and then we'll get going. All right, so really the training is going to be broken up into two parts. We'll take a look at Smart Ink first. And so I'll do a quick kind of overview of how the pens work with your smart board. We'll talk about how to customize those pens, how to add favorites. And I know if you already went to the training before, a little bit of this might be review, but there's a lot of new little information, little nuggets that we'll add in for you. And then we'll take a look in the second part of the training, we'll take a look at transparent background. So transparent background is actually a feature of your notebook software. And it's a feature that allows you to take tools that are specific to notebook, things like interactive rulers and interactive protractors, among other things that we'll talk about later, but it allows you to take those items but use them with outside resources. So you can use them in conjunction with your Google Slides or any websites or any resources that you might have and that you're using with your instruction. So that's really the big idea for today. Everything we're going to cover is about using existing resources and lessons that you have, but then me just showing you some tools that you can leverage with your instruction. So before we actually start jumping in and I start showing you some of these things, I just want to do a quick check-in. And I just want you to just let me know in the chat if you attended the hybrid equipment training where I did like a quick 10-minute kind of demonstration on the Smart Ink toolbar, just so I know how many of you already received a little piece of that. So maybe I can go through that part a little bit faster. So it'll just help me with my pacing. So if you can just say yes or no in the chat. Okay, let's see. So we have yes. Okay. Looks like it's almost like half and half, a little bit more no's than yeses. So, okay. Okay, that's all right. That looks good. Okay, either way though, just know that if you already went to the hybrid equipment training, there's going to be a lot of still new information for you, but there might be like 20% of it that might be a little bit of review. Okay, so just kind of know that, but just know that we will get to some stuff for you. Okay, so like I said, and thank you for checking in with me. But like I said, we'll talk about Smart Ink. We'll talk about transparent background. You have the slide deck. I'll reference it throughout. But first, let's start with Smart Ink. And really, there's only 4 things that we're going to cover here as part of Smart Ink. We'll talk about an overview of that little toolbar and how it works. We'll take a look at working with the pens. We'll look at presentation tools. We'll talk about stamps and then how to customize and add all your favorites. Okay, so it'll go by pretty quick. So let's go ahead and start with the toolbar overview. So what am I talking about when I say Smart Ink? So when I'm talking about Smart Ink, I'm talking about a little pen icon, and I have a picture of it here, but this pen icon automatically shows up on your smart board when you turn on your computer and you turn on your smart board. So as long as your computer is connected to the smart board and the computer has notebook software on it, which yours all do, the ones that are connected to your smart boards, because your district pushes that software out to all of you. So on those computers, you will have that notebook software. And so that already checks one of the things. You definitely have it. And so basically what happens is when you go up to your smart board and you pick up a pen, a little pen icon is going to show up. And from this pen icon, which is called your Smart Ink toolbar, and there's a picture of it here on the slide, this is what will allow you to choose additional pens, customize your pens, take a look at presentation tools, and add favorites and stamps. Okay, so everything that we're going to do in this first section of the training is all about finding that icon. Now, sometimes I have to take a step back and look for it because, you know, if there's a lot of things on my page, it can kind of get lost because it will float around and it's pretty small and it can be anywhere on the screen, okay? Now, before I move on though, I just want to address on slide 12, I have a slide here for what's going on if my Smart Ink toolbar is not showing up. And I have just a few steps here for you to take a look at. So one, just make sure that on the wall plate where the cables are connecting to your smart board, just make sure that they're nice and snug. No, don't unplug them, but just make sure that they're nice and snug. Because sometimes if those get loose, that could cause an issue. Also, make sure you pick up the pen, because if you don't pick up the pen, it doesn't activate that little pen toolbar, so it won't always show up if the pen is not lifted from the pen tray. Also, make sure you have that notebook software installed on the computer. Like I said, it gets pushed down by the district, so you should have it. But you know, sometimes it's technology, things happen, so it's possible you might not have it. So that's something to check. And then also, I have here some document that walks through steps of how you can manually open that Smart Ink program on your computer. So it should just automatically open and show up when you pick up the pen. But if that doesn't happen for you, try the steps on that document, okay? And then last but not least, if you've tried all these things, you've manually launched it and you still don't find or see that Smart Ink toolbar, then put it in a work order, okay? And when I show you in the second half of the training how to use the transparent background, it's a feature in notebook software. So as long as your computer has that notebook software from this transparent background tool that I'm going to show you, all the pens are there too. So not only are they in that Smart Ink little floating toolbar, but once I show you how to use transparent background, you're going to still be able to have access to all the same tools and all the same features using it's just a different way you're going to do it, which you're going to learn. Okay. So if you're not seeing that icon, you know, don't feel discouraged because there's still plenty of tools for you to learn. Okay. So I'm going to go ahead and just go live here to show you the icon. I'm going to use my remote that I have. So my camera has a remote, so that way I can zoom into things and get a closer look for you. So that's what, if you see my remote, that's what I'm doing here. Okay, so you'll see this is where my pen icon is located on my board, and see how it moves around, so I can move it anywhere I want. Okay. If I touch on top of it with my pen, it's going to open up to show me additional pen choices. And you'll see that around this outer little circle, so see how once I expand it around the outside, there are sections here. So there's a pen, there's a toolbox, that's where all my tools live. And then the star is where I can add my favorites. And we're going to take a look at all of those, but just want you to see that that's kind of how you navigate it. Now, additionally, notice that up at the very top, once I've expanded it, it doesn't matter which one is open, whichever little tab you're currently on. In the top right corner, there's a little push pin. Okay. So if you use the push pin, right now mine is pinned. So I'm going to unpin it. I just touched it and you see that the pin is now lifted up. So what that means is when I click to expand the toolbar, after a few seconds of inactivity, if I don't make a selection, it'll automatically hide again and go back to the small toolbar. So if I want to use it again, I'd have to click to open it to expand it again. Okay, so the difference is if you pin it by clicking that pin at the top right, then it's going to stay open and it won't close until you manually open and close it. Okay, so totally up to you on how you want that to be open or closed or to be pinned or not. Now, when you do open it, I want to focus here on the pens and the different pens that are available. Okay. Oh, actually, before I do that, there's one other thing, sorry, that I meant to cover. So I'm just going to add some ink here on the page because I want to talk about a quick way to erase ink or to get rid of ink. Okay. And we're going to use this little icon that shows up once you've added pen, any annotation marks to your screen. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom out here. Okay, so see how now that I've just added some annotations here, I'm going to, a quick way to erase it. I could either pick up my eraser if I'm on a smart board that has an eraser and use it. If I'm on a smart board that supports multi-touch, then you have the ability to use your palm with your fingers closed, and that will erase. Okay, so that's another way to erase. That same trick still works too. If you do that big U, you don't have to do a circle anymore. You could do a U. Oh, come on, it's making a liar out of me. A U, and then tap in the center. Maybe it does have to be a circle now. No, it's not liking it. So that trick used to work. It just worked like a week ago. So not sure why that's not working for me, but you can try it on your board and see what happens. But you should be able to do that circle and tap and erase. But if all else fails, the reason why I was talking about all this is I want to show you a tool, a little icon that will let you quickly clear all your ink. So this is one where it's not going to float around, so you're not going to lose it. It's always going to be in the same place. So I'm going to go ahead and zoom in. It'll always be at the top right of your smart board. And it's a little pen. And it's so tiny that it's so easy to miss. But if you click there, and you'll see that you have this top option here to clear ink. There's also the ability to capture the ink. So if you wanted to save any of your annotations, you could always take a picture of it there. Or if you just wanted to get rid of all the ink, let me zoom out so you can see how it gets rid of everything. I click clear ink. Now the ink is all gone. The pen is also gone too, that little pen, because that little pen only shows up if there's ink on the page. Okay. All right. So any questions about that before I move on to how you can customize the pens? Yes, Carrie, I'm on the MX board. I only have an MX board. So every time I do trainings, I only have an MX board. So yeah, that's the one I'm on.
That's what I was just wondering about their racing thing. That's what I was.
Oh, yeah. Okay, so any questions though about that little toolbar, pinning it, anything I've shown so far before I move on? Okay, well, if you think of something, definitely let me know. But I'm going to go ahead and talk about working with the pens then. So I'm going to go ahead and open up here. I've linked just a PDF document here. All right, so I'm going to move my pen over here. So if I wanted to use different pens besides just those, black and blue and red and green pens that are kind of like my default pens, then I can absolutely do that all from that little toolbar, my Smart Ink toolbar. So I'm going to go ahead and click on it so I can open it up. Okay. And what I can do next is, let me zoom in though, so you can see it better. Okay. All right, so now that I'm zoomed in, I want to make sure I'm on the pen icon, not over on the toolbox. We'll get to that next. But first, let's make sure we're on the pens. And then I can choose whether I want to be a standard pen, a highlighter. And then additionally, if I click these three dots over on the far right, there are extra pens available as well. So things like a crayon or a paintbrush or the magic pen or a shape pen and so on. For now though, let's talk about that first standard pen, because when you're the standard pen, there are some additional line style choices that you can make that are only available for that pen. So the standard pen is just that very first pen. It's the first pen for everyone. Once that one is selected, my next step will be to choose the color I want. So you're probably just going to see the first 4 colors. That last color will be whichever color you customize last. And let me show you how to pick a custom color. See the color box on the far right of your color choices? That will bring up a color wheel where you can touch anywhere on the outside. So like if I wanted a shade of maybe purple, I would click on purple and then see how in the inside, it gives me different variations of that color. So I can pick, maybe I want this really light kind of lavender color. I can choose that. Now, the next step is the thickness of my line. So how thick do I want it? Okay. Now, next, if I choose the icon here on the far right, that's going to let me customize my line style. And remember, all these extra customizations that you see here are only available when that first pen, the standard pen, is engaged. If you have selected the crayon or the highlighter, you're not going to have these additional choices up here. So the additional choices that are available, you can make this a standard, just solid line. You can make it a dashed line, and there's different like levels of like how far the dashes are apart. You could also make it start with an arrow, end with an arrow, which is kind of helpful if you're like pointing to things, because the pen would just end with automatically an arrow at the end. And then over here, you have a lever where you can really customize that thickness of the pen. And then at the bottom, this is for transparency. So you can make the pen a little bit transparent, so it's see-through if you want. Okay, so I went ahead and chose a dash line just so I can show you how that works. And actually, let me pick a darker purple, so that way it's a little bit more legible. I said purple, there we go. Okay, so now that I've made my selection here, I'm just gonna scroll up, maybe move the page down a little bit, just so we can get to the lines here. So I'm gonna put, so here we go. Okay. And so when I'm writing, see how it's writing in dashed. So because I chose that option there. So great if you wanted students to trace anything, something like that, okay? Now, if I want to change it back, I just go back to the line style, choose the solid line this time, and then now it'll go back to a solid line. Okay. So that's customizing the standard pen. But let me show you the additional pens that are available. I won't go through all of them because they all pretty much work the same. You just choose the one you want. And if you don't see the one you want, click the 3 dots. They will all be there. I'm going to choose the crayon. And then you would pick the color you want or go to the color wheel if you want a custom color. Okay. And then once you've picked your color, choose the thickness of the line. And I just want you to see that when it's the crayon, see how in this line style, all I can see is the thickness. I can't see anything else. There's no like dashed line or anything for the crayon. And then when you go to write with it, so I'm just gonna do like a star here. You can see that it is in that color that I chose, and it's a crayon. So it truly writes like a crayon. So if any of your curriculum, calls for using a certain color crayon to to color something in, you can definitely model that for your students because it truly writes like a crayon. All right. Those are the pens. So for now, let's just do a quick kind of check-in though. So I know that not all of you are at your actual smartboard. So I know that you're not all able to try this. So if you are in your classroom right now, I would encourage you to play with the different pen choices. Just go ahead and find your little toolbar, click around, and just play with it, okay? So I'll give you like a minute to do that. And if you don't have it in front of you, then just based on what you saw here, all these different types of pens that are available, like the Creative Pen, the Magic Pen, Shape Pen, Highlighter, which pen are you most excited to try? So when you do get back into your classroom, which one are you looking forward to trying? If you can put it in the chat. The Magic, oh yeah, good, the crayon. Yeah, oh, the Magic Pen is great, yeah. So for those that might not know, the Magic Pen, it does 3 things, but I'll just show you one of the things that it does. So here, this is the Magic Pen. It's disappearing ink. So after about 6 seconds is the default, it will magically disappear. So sounds pretty fun. All of them. Okay, good. The Magic Highlighter. Yeah, the color wheel. Oh, good. I'm glad. Okay, good. You didn't know it was there. So I'm glad you learned something new. That's exciting. The crayon, Magic Pen, the Magic Ink. Yeah, the highlighter. Yeah, the regular pen. Yeah, but just knowing how to change the width, right? Isn't that nice to just know? Just especially, if you want to make it thinner, if you want to make it thicker. I know in doing trainings this way, I've been making my pens a lot thicker. So that way through the camera, it's easier to see. So the Creative Pen. Oh yeah, that one's fun. The happy faces. If you like the Creative Pen, Marianne, then you're going to like when we get to the stamps. So I'll show you because you can actually create all your own custom ones. So I think you're going to like that. All right. So thank you for checking in there in the chat. And if you were at your board, hopefully you got an opportunity to click around and play with some of those pens. If not, just know that you can always go back to the slide deck. And in the slide deck, there's a whole video that covers all the different things that I showed. Okay, so we did an overview of the toolbar. We took a look at working with the different pens. So we're already halfway there for our first section. So next we're going to move on to the presentation tools, okay? All right, so presentation tools. I have a linked lesson here, one of your units on the empires of India. I think it is a good way to show some of these tools here. All right, I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in here. I want you to see that toolbar. Okay, so here's my Smart Ink toolbar. I also want to point something out. I didn't mention this before. So anytime that you choose a pen, the little icon will change. So like when I had the highlighter and maybe let's do a blue highlighter selected, then I can, yes, use the highlighter if I want to highlight something on the map here. But see how my Smart Ink little icon, it changed. It's now a highlighter. And that's just a good visual cue because that'll let you know that, oh, hey, what pen am I working with right now? Oh, you're the highlighter, okay? All right. Go ahead and erase that for now because I want to move on to the presentation tools, but just wanted to point that out, why mine might look different than yours. Okay, so done with the pens here. So I'm going to click on the toolbox. So these are the presentation tools, okay? So some of these, this is the part where it's definitely not really new information. So if you did attend before, so this is going to be review. But in the toolbox, these top 3 are presentation tools, okay? So if you did, like I said, go to that hybrid equipment training, then you did already see these 3. And they're pretty fast too. So we'll try to cover these relatively fast. Okay, so the very first one is the spotlight. Okay, so what that will do is spotlight an area of the screen. Okay, and I'm actually going to switch my view here so that way you can see my computer more clearly. You'll just see me as a picture-in-picture on the bottom. So now that I've selected the screen shade, I'm going to use my finger. If you can see in the bottom, my picture-in-picture, I'm just going to use my finger and I'm going to touch anywhere outside of it in the shaded area. And that's how I'm going to move it. And so this is helpful. Like, let's say we were looking at this map and we just wanted to focus on a certain region. I can just look at that particular region and it drowns out all that background kind of extraneous information. Now, if I want to change the size of my spotlight, I'm just going to touch on the border and I'm going to drag. So you see how that kind of bluish turquoisey kind of border, that's where I'm touching, and I'm just dragging with my finger in or out. And that's changing the size of it. And then I can move it around, okay? Now the X in the upper right corner of my spotlight is what will remove it from the page. Okay, so back then to my SmartInk toolbar, making sure I'm on the toolbox. Okay. I'm going to next click the tool that's at the top center. Okay, so I'm just going to zoom in. Well, but you're seeing my computer, so it's not going to help if I zoom in too much. But that's where I'm clicking though, is on the toolbox, the top center tool. It looks like a magnifying glass over a monitor. When I click there, that's my magnifier tool. And pretty similar to the other. So as I move it over, then it looks like my computer, oh, let's see, your internet connection is unstable. Okay, sorry, I was wondering why it wasn't working for your view. I know you're not seeing that. Okay, I'm gonna switch my view here because I just got a notification from Zoom that my internet is not stable. So we'll just switch to this view here. Hopefully you guys are still there, right?
Yes.
Okay, good, okay. All right, thank you. Okay, so with my magnifier, I can move it over and see how similar to my spotlight, it's just going to make information larger. So again, just another tool that helps draw students' attention, especially like on this map. If we wanted to look at a certain region, not only are we kind of removing all that extraneous information around it, but in this instance, it helps make the information larger so it's easier for the students to see. Okay. Now, similar to the spotlight though, if I want to change the size of it, I just touch on the border and I just drag in or out to make it bigger or smaller. So maybe I just want to look at one part here. Now, with this magnifier, this is something I didn't cover last time. Once you are viewing something, if you look below the magnification window, there's a tiny little icon, and it's actually a lever. And that lever will let you zoom in within the magnification window. So if you needed to get even closer, you could, okay? And that's just a little lever that you drag. All right, now the X in the upper right corner will remove it from the page. Okay, last one, and then we'll do a quick little check-in, and those that are at your board will give you a chance to try those. I'm gonna go ahead and click on my Smartboard tools to open them up. I'm gonna zoom in so you can see where I'm actually clicking here. All right, so here we go, making sure I'm on the toolbox. This top right icon is my screen shade. So I'm gonna zoom out, you can see the whole board. But what happens when I click that screen shade icon or that screen shade tool is that it puts a shade over my entire smartboard, also over my entire computer screen. And what I do next is I'm going to touch on any of the sides, which is a handle, and I'm going to drag it in any direction, and it's going to be used to hide information and to pace my students through a slide or through a worksheet, whatever it may be that I have up here visible. And so this would be good if we just wanted to look at the map first, or maybe we wanted to hide that. So I can drag this over and drag it this direction. And maybe I want to hide the map and we just want to talk about the different events first. Or let's do it the opposite, the way we had it. I'm going to have the map visible, but I just want to go through and we're just going to start with this time frame. Move it down, and we're just going to look at one bullet at a time, okay? Now, what's great is that when the screen shade is up, the pen still works. So I can still like highlight different things. I just can't write on top of the screen shade, but I can definitely still write on things that are outside of the screen shade. And then if I touch the center of the screen shade, every time I click, it will shuffle through some color choices for me. So you don't have to get stuck with that boring gray screen shade anymore. All right, and the X in the upper right corner will remove it from the page. All right, so those are the presentation tools. So if you are at your smartboard, go ahead and take a minute or so to just go ahead and locate those presentation tools and just play around with them. Let me know if you have any questions. Also, anyone who's not at their board, but if you have questions too, feel free to speak up or put your question in the chat. And then also too, I'll ask you a quick question. So I know that if you're not at your board, you can't practice this, but just kind of thinking about what kind of resources that you use in your instruction. What kind of resources do you think that you might be able to use with these presentation tools? So go ahead and jot your ideas down in the chat, because an idea that you have might help one of your colleagues out. So it might be something that, we didn't think about. So the screen shade, oh yeah. Screen shade with word problems. Yeah, that's a good idea. The screen shade, yeah, you like the screen. Yeah, with PDFs, that'd be really helpful. Especially because you can like paste it, like especially I'm thinking like math or something too. If you only wanted to look at like one problem at a time, you didn't want them to jump ahead of you. That's always a good way too to use the screen shade. To look for words. Yeah, that's a good idea. I saw that someone asked if I can show the spotlight again. So before we move on, let me just go ahead and let me definitely zoom in again and show you where that tool is. Okay. So you're just going to make sure that you open up the SmartInk toolbar. You're on the toolbox. And the spotlight is the top left one that looks like a flashlight. And then that's what will add it to the page. Okay. And then you adjust it by touching on the line and dragging out, and then the X in the upper removes it. The screen shade to hide the silent E and the words to show the word before and after. Oh yeah, that's a good idea. Magnify tool. Okay, cool. All right, well, thank you all for sharing. Those are all great ideas. I love it. Let's go ahead and let's talk about the next last item here. There's kind of two parts to it. First, we'll take a look at stamps, and then I'll show you how everything that you learned, whichever tools you like the most, so any of those pens or any of the presentation tools that you liked, I'm going to show you how to make them more easily accessible. So when you're teaching, you can really save some of that precious instructional time. You're not going to have to go through all those steps every time to make all those little customizations, okay? So that's what we'll cover next. So let's go ahead and take a look then at our stamps. All right, so the stamps are located in the toolbox. So I'm gonna go ahead and zoom in here. Oops, a little too high. Where's my icon? There it is, okay. So once I open up my SmartInk toolbar, I wanna be on the toolbox, still in the tools. And the one that I'm looking for here is this bottom right. It looks like a stamp, okay, like one of those rubber stamps. And when you click there, you'll see that there are 10 standard stamps. Those are preloaded. Let me just switch my view here really quick, just to make sure you can see. Whoops, a little bit better. There we go. I'll move them down a little bit. Okay. All right, so just again, let me just revisit those steps really quick that I did to get to the stamps. So I expanded my SmartInk toolbar. I want to make sure that I'm on the toolbox, and it's this bottom right tool that looks like a stamp pad. Okay, these top 10 here are your standard stamps. Those are just preloaded. They automatically come. You have things like a check mark, which is great if you were like checking off tasks maybe that they needed to complete. You could use a thumbs up to give some positive reinforcement. There's a random panda that you can use, which is just kind of fun. You have happy faces, you have stars, you know, maybe for this, if we're taking a look at like capitals or something like that, we can use a star. That light bulb there for like, you know, for thinking. And then you also, my favorite thing, you can add your own with any picture file, okay? So you can create up to 20 custom stamps. So just think if there's like certain like stickers or kind of like if you wanted to create like a badging system or something within your class, you can add them a stamp. So there's a whole bunch of different things you can do here with it, even just things that are like visual cues. So like when you know that it's like active listening, you want to add like a certain stamp that lets the students know that, okay, now it's time to be active listeners. Now you can make a stamp for it. So let me show you the steps. You're just going to click the plus here. And then that's going to open up. Let me zoom out. And that's just going to then let you choose any picture that you have saved on your computer. Okay, so it could be a picture here. Let me look in here. What do I want to use? I should have had one saved. I do on my other computer, but I didn't on this one. So that's okay. Let's just do, I did the ID. Oh yeah, let's do the IDS logo. So I'll click that one. And then it will add it. So I had already added it, which is why it's already there. Okay. But you can add up to, like I said, 20 of your own. Okay, so once you have it there, you can choose it and then see how I created my IVS stamp. Okay. So I want to share an idea with you that someone from the previous session shared when, like, because, you know, after every tool, I'm kind of asking, like, what are your ideas? And so there was an idea that someone shared that I had never thought of, and I thought it was just so fabulous that I want to share it with you. There's a feature with Smart Ink that when you, let me zoom out, when you are on your desktop, and this is only going to work when you're on your desktop, okay? But if you pick up a pen, so let me do my pen here. I just want to make sure I'm the regular pen. Okay, so pick up a pen on your desktop only. And if you start writing, so I'm going to write group 1. And I can move this if I needed to the top here. And I would write that a little bit nicer, but you get the idea. You can't see the writing, but let me zoom in. Okay, so there it is, okay? And then if I wanted to make another one, I would just start writing somewhere else on empty space, group 2. And these, again, these just float, these little Smart Ink notes, you can move them around. So you can make like one for every group maybe, or they could be for different things, but I'm just sharing this one idea that someone had. And then as a group, if you wanted to do like a badging system, or like maybe it's just they get to collect happy faces, or they get to collect some sort of stamps, then in your stamp pad here, I can open up my stamp pad, going to my toolbox, clicking on my stamps, and then maybe I want to give, you know, this group a happy face, and they can collect happy faces, and it moves with it because it stays put as its own. And even as I navigate away, so like if I went to a website or did something else, when I go back to my desktop, it stays up there until I turn off my computer. So I can always even save them, you know, for that whole day or however you want to do it. Okay. And then the X in the corner, that's what will remove the note from the page. But just one example that someone shared with how they might use stamps. So that is how you customize and also add the stamps. So what I want to move on to is just the very last thing we're going to cover, and it's creating all your favorites. Okay. And so still on the same page with the favorites. So I just want to walk through those steps. So pretty simple. So here we go, zoomed in. All right. Okay. So I want to make sure I'm on the star. Let me zoom in a little bit more. Okay, there we go. Want to make sure you can see all these steps very clearly. Okay, so just go ahead and open up your Smart Ink toolbar. Make sure that on this outer ring here, the one that is engaged is the star. Right now, I don't have any favorites, but I can add them. So to add them, I'm just going to click the plus. And then I have to choose which type of favorite I would like to add. Is it a pen? Is it a stamp? Or is it a tool? So let's do a pen first. I'll click pen. And then what I'm doing next is I'm going through all the customizations. So I'm getting to pick the pen, the color, the line style, all of that. So that way my favorite that I'm making, it's not just the standard crayon. It's the specific crayon and the specific color and thickness that I like. Okay, so let's go ahead and do that. I'm going to go to the crayon. And I like purple. That's my favorite color. So I'm going to choose purple. And then maybe I like the thicker crayon. Okay, so I'll make that choice there. And then I'm going to click here for add as favorite. So now in my little star, it's located there. So let me go through those steps one more time. I click the plus. This time I'm going to add a stamp. So like maybe I really love the happy face stamp. I use it a lot. I can click the happy face, add this as a favorite. Now it's a favorite, okay? So then watch what happens. So let's just say I'm just that standard pen, okay? So now the pen, my plain old Smart Ink toolbar little icon now has the favorites that I added are small little icons on the outside that float with it. And that's what gives me easy access to them. Because I can, instead of having to click to open it and then go to my favorites and then click it, that's a lot of steps. I don't have to do that. All I have to do is click on the tiny little favorite that is on the outside of the Smart Ink toolbar. So if I click on that little crayon, now my pen, oh, come on. My pen became a crayon. I don't know why it's not drawing. Yeah, these things happen, huh? Let's see. Oh, my computer froze. Oh, lovely. Okay, well, it would have written, I'll give it a chance to catch up, but it would then write as the that pen. Okay. So I'll give this a second. I don't know what happened, but I'll give it a chance to reconnect. There we go. Okay, now it's working. Okay, and then you also have the happy face too. And I can easily go back and forth between all of those. And I can add as many favorites as I want. So again, I just go to the star, click that plus, and then this time let's add a tool. Let's say I really love, a lot of you said you love the screen shade. Well, click the screen shade, make it a favorite. So now, when I'm moving this little icon, see on the outer edge, all three of those tools are there. So I can easily go from being my crayon to a happy face to adding the screen shade. Okay. All right, so that's how you add favorites. So for those of you that are in your classroom, I just want to give you a chance to go through those steps to add a favorite. And then for everyone else, if you don't have the opportunity to actually add one of your favorites to your Smart Ink toolbar because you're not in your classroom, well, that's okay. Let's just think about though, and you can tell me in the chat and share with your colleagues, which favorites do you plan to add to your Smart Ink toolbar? So just based on what you've seen, is there like a certain color of a certain tool or just a certain tool or maybe a certain stamp that you're gonna customize and create that you're gonna add as a favorite? You can just let me know. You can put it in the chat. Ooh, an orange highlighter, okay. Purple pen and yellow highlighter, a happy face, nice. Oh, your school color's purple, that's cool. The star stamp, yeah, nice. The magnification, great. Great, all right. Oh yeah, the screen shade, okay. Yeah, I like having the screen shade in my favorite. So what I do is usually I have all my favorites here, but because I knew I was gonna show you guys how to add them, I removed all my favorites. So that way, you know, and you know what? I just realized, I don't think I showed you that. Did I show you that? No, I didn't. Let me show you that. So let's just say, for instance, maybe you added a favorite, but then you want to edit the favorite. So maybe you like don't like that shade of purple. You want it to be slightly different. You can always customize it. So just go ahead and open up, go back to your favorites. And if you click on the one that you want to customize, oops, I accidentally engaged it. Give me 1 second. Okay, so like the happy face, I would click on it and then see how below the plus, there's an edit. And then that will let you see if I click on the pen, I could either delete it or I can customize it. Okay, so I can do that. All right. So that's how I can get rid of them if I needed to. Okay. All right. So let's see if anyone else put in thickness of the pen, happy face, star stamp. Nice. Stamps. Cool. Okay. All right. Well, thank you all for sharing. So that basically we've been through everything for the whole first part. See how we're doing on time. That's great because the next part is really fast. It's just one tool that I'm going to show you. So we're almost done. So we took a look at the overview of the toolbar, working with pens. We talked about the presentation tools. We added some stamps, and then we also added some favorites. So great job. We are already done with that whole first part. So let's go ahead and we're going to skip that little check-in since we've been checking in quite a bit, and I want to make sure that we get you out of here on time. So let's talk about the transparent background. So the whole reason, I'm kind of give you some background of why I'm sharing the transparent background with you is because, yes, you have that little floating Smart Ink toolbar, and there are a lot of great tools on there. There's lots of pens, right? The presentation tools, the stamps, all really great. But within this tool in Notebook called Transparent Background, it's going to give you additional tools on top of those. Okay, so namely, you're going to have things like a protractor, a ruler, things like that. Okay, and so that's why I want to share it with you. But then I also want to share it with you because I mean, in every training, I always have at least a few who, for whatever reason, they can't find that little Smart Ink toolbar that floats around. So another thing that's great about the tool I'm about to show you is that there are pen tools in there as well. So all those same pens that you just learned about from that you can get from the Smart Ink toolbar, those are also available with this other tool that I'm about to show you. So you can use it in lieu of, or you can just use it in addition to, okay? So what is transparent background? So transparent background is essentially a tool that makes Notebook invisible. So by going into this viewing option, you will make Notebook look like it's not there, but you're still in Notebook. So you'll still have the tools and the power of Notebook software, but you won't see it. So that means you're going to be able to visit other websites and pull up your own resources. And basically you're running Notebook in the background. Okay, so that's transparent background. And in this section, there's really just two things I'm going to cover. I'm going to show you how to get into this mode, and then just kind of how that toolbar looks. And then I'll show you some math features that are available within that toolbar. Okay. All right, so you have slides for all of this. I'm going to go ahead and just go live and show you the steps for using this tool. Okay, so on my desktop and on yours as well, you should have a software that's called Smart Notebook. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see what the icon looks like. So it's this icon here. And as long as you're on your teacher computer, you should have the one that's connected to your smartboard. You should have that Notebook software, because this is that same software that gets pushed down by the district to all your computers. All right, so to access this viewing option, that's going to let us take tools out of Notebook and use them with all the resources that we're using already, we're going to start by opening up this software. So I'll double click to open. I'll go ahead and zoom out here. All right, so I'll be patient and give this notebook software the time to open. So once this loads, the next step is we have to get into this viewing option, okay? So there's two ways to do it. We can do it from the menu or we can do it from an icon on the toolbar. And I'm gonna show you both. Now, if you are on so if you're at your computer right now, if any computer, if you have notebook software on that computer, you can actually do these steps right now. You can follow along because you do not have to be at your smartboard to use this feature. So whereas that Smart Ink toolbar, you have to be connected to your smartboard to make that icon show up. This tool though is great because you don't have to be. So even if you're just sitting at your computer, not even connected to your smartboard is not even on, you can still do everything that I'm about to show you, okay? All right, so my notebook software is open. I'm gonna zoom in to the top here so you can see where I go to open this up. Okay, couple ways. You can go to View in the menu and then select Transparent Background. For me, it's the third one down. For you, it might be the second. It just depends on the different version of software that we might have. But either way, it doesn't matter. It's just View, and then the one you're looking for is Transparent Background. So you can do it from the menu. Or the other option is on the toolbar. There's a tool that I'm pointing to here that looks like a monitor, like a computer monitor, and it has a magnifying glass on it. So that is your View Screens icon. And when you click that, it's gonna open up and show you all your different viewing options. And the one that we want is Transparent Background. So I'm gonna go ahead and click from here. And then I'm gonna zoom over a little bit. Not zoom, but pan over. And you'll see that what happened was Notebook disappeared. So let me zoom out so you can see entirely. Notebook is gone, but I get left with this floating toolbar, okay? So now from this floating toolbar, I know you can't see it, but at the very end of it, at the very top, there's a little X. And if I click that X, it exits that viewing mode. So now look at Notebook reappeared. So that's all that happened was when I engaged that viewing option, Notebook disappeared. So let me do that one more time. I'm gonna go to View Screens, go to Transparent Background, and then there we go. Notebook has disappeared. And now I'm left with this floating toolbar. But that will stay there. So now I can navigate to open up my Google Slides presentation. I can open up worksheets. I can open up websites. I can do anything I want, and I'll still have access to this toolbar to use all the tools that are available, okay? So what tools are available? Let me zoom in here and go to the top. It's movable, so you can move anywhere you want. So I'll just leave it here so it's nice and visible for everyone. Now, one thing I will point out is that this is the expanded toolbar. So if you are trying this and you went into Transparent Background, but you don't see as many tools as I do, that's because at the end of the toolbar, there's a double-sided arrow. And if you click that arrow, it's going to shorten the toolbar and just give you a few tools like the mouse and the pen, and then the ellipsis, which the ellipsis is where all the tools are located. But if I click the double-ended arrow, it expands it out, and the things that appear are these math tools. Okay. All right, so let me show you how some of these tools work. So remember when I told, for those of you that don't have a Smart Ink toolbar for whatever reason, I know I told you some steps to follow, and I also mentioned that you could put in a work order, but you know, things don't get fixed overnight. So in the meantime, this would be a great way to use pen tools, because those same pen tools that we found on the Smart Ink toolbar are visible on this toolbar as well. So if I click the pen, that's just going to give me a pen tool. So I can write here. Oops, you can't see that. So if I wanted to write there, I can. And then I can also access additional pens from the 3 dots. So from those 3 dots, let me just move this down so you can see all the options that are available. You have a screen shade. You have all your pens, your calligraphy pen. Let's say if you wanted your highlighter, if you wanted the text pen, because maybe I want to write Nevada, and then after I write it, it's going to automatically convert it to text because I wrote it with my text pen. Well, it was supposed to. Come on, text pen, don't fail me. So let's try that one more time. It's supposed to convert, but I don't know why it didn't. But anyways, there it goes. So that's what was supposed to happen. Maybe I didn't actually click it last time, but that's the text pen. And well, all those other pens that you already saw, they're all there. Now, in addition, you have a line tool. That is not available in the Smarting toolbar, but they're available here. So it's just nice to know about it. So there's just extra things. You also have shapes. So there's all kinds of different shapes you can add. So like, let's say we added a star. Oops, that's not a very good looking star. Let me zoom out a little bit too, so you can see everything I'm doing here. So here's my star. So I'm just gonna click on it and I'm gonna go ahead and I just resized it there. And I'm just gonna move it up here. Now, all the features of notebook software are still available though. So if I want, I can click on that star. And I'm gonna zoom in so you can see where I'm clicking. I'm gonna go to the drop-down arrow. And there's something for those of you that are familiar with Notebook. Even if you're not though, it's okay. I'll show you this one tool and that's it. It's the Infinite Cloner. So the Infinite Cloner will always give you another copy. So if you wanted, and I made my star kind of big, but if you wanted to put a little star, something like a little bank for your map, and then infinitely clone those items, then anytime you drag, it's gonna give you another one, okay? Now, there's a lot going on here. So if I wanted to change my page, or if I wanted to clear the page, there's a couple options I have here. So let me zoom into my toolbar here. Because there's kind of this like trick I can do, because when I'm in this transparent background, remember I'm in Notebook software, but that Notebook page was plain originally, right? There was nothing on it. So if I were to exit this transparent background by either clicking the X or clicking the transparent background icon, watch what happened. Let me zoom out and do that again. So if I go back into transparent background, there it is. If I leave it, see how all the things that I added that were added by that toolbar, they're still there, okay? And if I go back, there we are. With that being said, this is just a blank page in Notebook, but I added things to it. So if I wanna quickly get rid of those things, on that toolbar, there's an add a page. So all I did was push add a page, and then now I have a clean space. Add a page, it's gone. But did it really go anywhere? No, because I can use my back button, and I'm really just going back pages or forward pages in my Notebook file. You just don't see that Notebook's there, okay? All right, so I'm just gonna show you where to find those math tools, and I'll quickly demonstrate them for you, but I know that not everyone teaches, you know, with that and uses these particular tools. So I don't wanna spend too much time. I just wanna kind of orient you to where they're located and just do a quick demonstration for you. And then we'll do our final kind of check-in and start to wrap it up, okay? So, again, from the transparent background, I'm gonna zoom in so you can see it better. On that toolbar, we have the ruler. And remember, the ruler only shows up if you expand the toolbar. I'll click the ruler, and there it's added to the page. If I touch in the center of it, so see this dark shaded area in the center, that's what lets me move it around. And it truly is an interactive ruler. So if I wanted to measure, I could line it up here. If I want to remove measurements, I just touch on the end and drag in or drag out. So maybe I only want it to go to 12 inches. I can do that. See this green arrow here? That will switch the inches and centimeters from the top to the bottom. And it also has this really cool feature where it lets you draw a straight edge. So if I wanted to draw a straight edge, I'm gonna click one of my pens from that toolbar, or I can even click the 3 dots and choose like one of the fancy pens if I wanted. But here, I'll just click the regular pen. And what you do is you start drawing just like you were gonna do a straight edge on your ruler. And even if you do a really bad squiggly job, it makes a straight line because you're writing with a ruler. Now, if I touch on the top or bottom of the ruler, see how it lets me rotate it, and it'll show me the angle as well. So then I can move this here. Like, let's say maybe I wanted to see where these intersect here. I can then draw my line there. Okay. Now, if I want to get rid of my ruler, there's a couple things I can do. So I can either add a page, because that'll get rid of it, right? It's not really gone though. I can just go use my back arrow. There, we're back on the page. But I want to use the lines that I made with the protractor. So I'm just going to click right on, click on it. So see how it's kind of hard to tell that it's selected, but there's a little arrow in the upper right corner that does show up. And that's what lets me know that, okay, yes, I have clicked on it. You could always right click on it as well too. That would work. And then from the drop down, there's a delete button. So you could always delete it. And there's also a delete button on that toolbar as well, that red X. Okay, so then now if I were to add something like a protractor, then I could line this up here. And if you touch the center of your protractor, you have a little angle measurement here. So I could line that up, inject that angle, and I know that that is a 100, oops, it went down here, 150 degree angle there that I just measured. So think this is going to work on top of anything. So whether this is a website, this is a worksheet, this is your Google slide presentation, anything you open, these tools are available. Okay. And then when I want to leave this, I would just click that transparent background icon again. Notebook reappears. And you see over here on the left, these are just all the pages that I had added. But only the items that I added from that toolbar are there, not the things that were behind it. Okay. All right. So that's transparent background. Those are the tools that I wanted to highlight for you. So let's go back to our presentation. And I just want to see if there are any questions that you have about transparent background. Okay. Any questions? So at this time, so let's see, we're at 4:40 almost. That's everything that, all the tools that I had planned to show you. So I just want to give you kind of this opportunity to, again, ask questions for those that maybe aren't at your board. If you're at your board, definitely feel free to try this transparent background. Open up your notebook software, kind of practice the steps of going into that viewing option, play with some of those tools, practice leaving that viewing option. And so, yeah, I just want to give you some time to do that. But also I'm here if you have any questions, and then we can put the evaluation link in the chat as well. So that way you have time to complete that before we're done here. All right. Can you show how to use the infinite duplicating thing again? Yeah, absolutely, Morgan. Okay, so let me show you that. So to do that, you first have to open up Notebook, right? And be on a blank page, or just open up a new blank software, either way. And then we have to go into our transparent background. So I'll click my viewing options here, go to transparent background. Now, once that toolbar appears, I have to have a tool. So I can either add it from this, the 3 dots there. There's tools that you can add, like a shape. So you can add a shape here, something like that. Or there's also another way, because what happens is anything that's on your notebook page, so like, let's say this tool here, right? This protractor that's already on the page. When I go into transparent background, it's still there. So with that in mind, we exit. If I have a blank page and there's a particular type of tool that I would like to infinitely clone, like maybe a coin or like a base 10 rod or something like that, you can always search for one. So in my notebook software, I don't want to get like too much into the weeds because I know you didn't specifically ask that. You just asked how to use that tool, but I just want you to see that you can always even just go to like Google and find an image and paste it on the screen. But I'm just going to search here for a quarter. So let's do quarter and search. Okay, so I have a picture here, and did they add it to the page? There it goes. Okay, so give that a second. Now I added it from over here in the tab, the little widget, the image web search, but it doesn't have to be this. I could have gotten this from Google Images and then just copied it on the page. That would have worked too, okay? So I'm just gonna set my image transparency here. And there's this little link that I wanna get rid of. Okay, so steps on how you get the picture onto the notebook page doesn't matter. Just think of it like if you were building a Google slide and you have to go find a picture and put it there. Same steps, however you wanna do it, doesn't matter. Once it's there, you could either do it now or you can do it live. It doesn't matter, like when you're actually in the viewing option, but you would just click it. Let me zoom in. And you would go down, you would, oops, lost my headphone, that's okay. You can click the drop-down arrow, go to infinite cloner, and now it's infinitely cloned, okay? So once I go into transparent background, that coin will stay there. Okay, and then now if I open up a worksheet or I open up whatever that I'm going to use this with, then it's ready to go. And every time I drag it out, I can make as many as I want. Okay. So you just have to keep in mind that you can only clone things that were added as part of this toolbar. So it can either be from that ellipsis, it could be any of the shapes that are here, or the lines or anything like that, or it would have to have been placed onto the notebook page. And then once you go into that transparent background, it'll still be visible. So sorry, I know I like probably over-explained that. So sorry, and I'm gonna pick up my headphone here, but just wanted to be thorough, just to let you know that that was an option. All right, so any other questions? Oh yeah, so is there a way to save your work? Yeah, absolutely. So with notebook software, you would just go up to file in the file menu, just like kind of think of like notebook software as like, it's not an online thing, it's like an actual program. So think of it more like Microsoft Word meets Microsoft PowerPoint, not their Google versions, but like the actual applications that are downloaded on your computer. That's kind of like in the same family wheelhouse as Smart Notebook. And what's great about Notebook is that everything on the page is a movable object, everything, even, you know, things that you write. So like if I write my name here, see how it can move all together? Well, I can also shake on top of it side to side. And now I can break this up. And now each piece is separate. And I can pull all these individual letters out and then drag these together. Oops, not those. Drag these together, shake on top of it. Now I just grouped that together. So there's a lot of like tricks and things that you can do in Notebook that you just can't do in other programs, because Notebook is the software that was created to use with Smartboards. So it's the same brand. So Smart, who makes the board, they make this software. So to answer your question though on how to save it, you go to File, Save As, just like you would save any other kind of Word or PowerPoint file. Choose where you want it to be saved on your computer, give it a name. So I'm just gonna call this test, click save. Now it's on my desktop, and I just want you to see the little icon so you know that any Notebook files are saved as like these little, that bluish kind of color with white lines on it. That's a Notebook file. Okay. All right. Yeah, there's definitely, Mrs. Foster, there's definitely plans to have ongoing PD for Smartboards, kind of like we used to do. So this was kind of like our basic kind of like getting back into offering Smartboard trainings again. So yeah, we've been working with Rachel and her team on offering those trainings. So definitely look for more. This was the last one that we have scheduled, I believe, for this school year, since the school year is almost over. But definitely look for more in the future, because we're definitely wanting to do that. So even if in the evaluation too, if there's a good spot for it, you can even put kind of some things that you want to learn more about. And we'd be happy to, we definitely look at those evaluations and take all of that feedback to heart. So if you want to put some kind of things in there as well too, for additional trainings that you would like to have, I'd be happy to look at that and kind of see what kind of offerings we can put together. So, all right. How are we doing? Yeah, no problem. Can you show how you added the lined page we're writing on to show how to use the dotted line writing tool? Yeah, so the lined pages, that's going to be a feature of Notebook software. So in Notebook, so when I'm in Notebook on a blank page, you do have some background options, and those are found in the gallery. So for those that are not familiar with Notebook, I know kind of this might be a little bit or a lot of information, so bear with me here, and I'm happy to show you more than once. But the gallery is this second tab that is found in Notebook software. It looks like a picture frame with like a moon. And up at the top, if you search for the word, like here, I'm gonna search for paper. Oops, new backspace though. Okay, so I'm gonna search for paper. That will give me some backgrounds. So if I go to background and themes here, you can see that there is like small lined paper. You also have grid paper. So there's a whole bunch of different paper options here. So like lined paper. Is that what you're asking about? There's these two or thicker lines, up to you. And then, so those are the lined papers, but then you also have the ability to, in that Smart Ink toolbar from here, you could also, it's the standard pen is the only one that does that. So on the standard pen, you would have to go to the line style, and then you just have to choose either you want the further apart dashes or the smaller dashes, whichever one you want. Okay. And then you'd pick your color. So I'll go ahead and leave it as black. Let's make it thicker. And so now see how I'm a dotted pen. So if I were to write here, okay, and then students can trace that. Is that what you were asking? Just want to make sure. Okay, good. Is there a way to split the screen on the Smartboard, half Smart Notebook, half the other half of another program. So not necessarily that that's a feature built into notebook software, but I can show you a trick that I use that I do. So it's kind of just like a computer trick. If you, so you know how if a window is maximized up at the top where you have the X, the minimize, the one in the center will restore down the window. And once it's restored down like that, you can move it. And then you can actually drag it and make it fill out like half of your smartboard. It's a little bit harder to drag it from the smartboard, but if I do it from my actual computer with my mouse, it's a lot easier to adjust, kind of make it show up halfway. And then I could always here do the same thing for my Google Slides, snap it to this side, and then I can have two things open. Is that kind of what you're asking? Because there isn't a specific tool within Notebook that's going to let you do that. Notebook does have a dual page where you can see two Notebook pages side by side, but they have to be in Notebook. It's not going to let you see things outside of Notebook. Yeah, you can write on both sides. Sure. Yeah, thank you all.